Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. It's Thursday morning, and I'm down here once again at Cockle Bay, Darling Harbour, here in Sydney. There's a gentle breeze blowing. It's a little bit cooler this morning, so you can get a feel for autumn starting to kick in. Yesterday morning was cold, but the afternoon was mild and warm. But the year is moving to the wintry months. So what I'd like to do today is just change the pace a little bit and do another book summary. And today's book summary is going to be on financial planning. And the book is authored by a female author by the name of Chelsea Fagan, who has a tremendous social media following. She's got over 1 million, believe it or not, 1 million followers, which is absolutely phenomenal. 1 million followers, 1 million people who listen to her advice, who take and respect her counsel, and hopefully have a better life because of it. Because it's people like Chelsea who write books, who capture their deep thoughts, who translate their life lessons, their wisdom, into wisdom that other people can share and enjoy, that make a difference. So the book that Chelsea has written is entitled The Financial Diet, and it's a book with a few key lessons in terms of how to make the most of what you have, how to piece together and cobble together the things that you have in order to build the things that you want to have in your life. So what we'll do is we'll go on a bit of a walk and talk like I normally do. So I'll just head down the escalators and move down towards the waterfront and have a bit of a chat along the way and see what we can glean, see what we can learn from this expression of OPE, other people's experiences, and take one or two life lessons, one or two life hacks, and try and weave it into, try and incorporate it into our life to make not only today but our tomorrows more compelling and more productive. So Chelsea kicks off her book with a quote where she states that money doesn't buy you happiness, but it does buy you the Lego kit. According to Chelsea, it buys you the Lego kit. It buys you a ticket to the dance where you can start to enjoy and experience levels of happiness. Because what Chelsea says is that it buys you comfort, it buys you security, it buys you options, it gives you choices. Even if you still have to build your happiness on top of that foundation, what Chelsea is saying is that we should never turn our backs on money, because whilst money won't generate the happiness per se, it can put you on the road and it can give you the building blocks in order to be happy. I remember years ago speaking to my late Uncle George Gigas, and I remember him saying and laughing, saying, "Dimitri mo, money can't buy your happiness. He says, I've got lots of money, and I can tell you that money won't buy your happiness. But if you don't have money, he said, it will guarantee you misery. You'll wake up every day wondering where you're going to, get your next dollar, and how you're going to be able to pay your bills, how you're going to be able to provide a better life for your children, for your wife, for your parents, your family. So whilst money won't guarantee you happiness, he said something very profound. He said that not having money will guarantee you misery, not only for you, but for those around you. So we need to be responsible with money decisions. We need to respect money and to do whatever we can to improve our financial affairs is the key message that my uncle once talked about, my late uncle, but also a key message from this book from Chelsea. Chelsea also says something really interesting as well, is that the way you feel about money has a lot to do with the environment that you grow up in, the neighbourhood, the schools that you attend, the people that you circulate and associate with. Because she says how rich you feel depends on your neighbourhood. And I remember years ago somebody saying where when people compare suburbs and postcodes, where they said that what's more important than where you live is who you live next to. What do your neighbours do? Are your neighbours people living in a housing commission, or are they people of a middle class background, people who are professional, people who are business owners? That's one of the key elements in terms of evaluating a particular suburb, especially for those people who are trying to improve themselves, improve their station in life. One thing that one can do is to try and assess a particular neighbourhood in terms of what people do within that neighbourhood. Are they troubled families? Are they broken families? Are they people who are strugglers in life? But as we say, depending on the neighbourhood you grow up in, that will also influence your worldview. It'll influence how you think about things, what you believe in, and how you feel about life in general. So the author here says, as I said before, how rich you feel in many ways depends on the neighbourhood you're brought up in. But you also have to be very careful. This is a key message as well that comes from this author. You have to be very, very careful that you don't fool yourself and fall into the trap, the never-ending vortex of equating money with your self-worth. There is a risk, and a lot of people tend to fall into this trap, where they spend their lives thinking that their possessions, their job, their postcode, and all of those things equate to who they are as a person. But nothing could be further from the truth. We aren't our possessions. We aren't our postcode. We aren't any of those things. We are all individual, unique persons, people, invaluable relationships where we have people depending on us for various things and various reasons, and we all have a different calling and callings that we're asked to try and deliver on in our lifetimes. So we should never ever encourage our children to equate their self-worth with their money or their wealth or the trinkets that they accumulate throughout their lives. So some very powerful lessons to kick this book off with, and I'm glad that she touches on some of these touchy and difficult topics, because with social media, with Instagram, with influencers all about living a fake lifestyle with augmentation, you just can't tell anymore who the attractive or who the naturally beautiful people are, because everybody is playing with their elements, augmenting, changing their physicality artificially, so you don't really know anymore who the naturally beautiful person is. And everybody now is a figment of our imagination and a figment of science, making something out of something else. And I feel sorry. I genuinely feel sorry for those people who have natural beauties in terms of hair colour, eye colour, body shape, because they no longer have an advantage over the others, because everybody now can change their hair colour, everybody can change the shape of their body, and no longer are people who are naturally gifted able to stand out because of their genetic advantages. But getting back to this book here, what the author here talks about is that we need to pick a few financial principles that we stick to, and she calls them the 4 don't you dares. So the first don't you dare, in order to maintain and build our financial platform, is we shouldn't ever dare to roll over our credit card debt from month to month. Now that's something that will get you into perpetual trouble, and before you know it, after Christmas or after a big spending spree like a holiday, you'll be tied up and shackled with credit card debt that will take potentially years to grind down. So rule number 1 is not to roll over credit card debt, and to manage your financial situation as best you can. And it's good to have these rules early in your life. The second rule that Chelsea talks about is to not try and live a CEO lifestyle and to try and eliminate bad spending from an early age. And even if you do come into money, even if you do find yourself on a good income with a good job, to manage it wisely and not to waste it through bad spending. You know, even CEOs on $1 million salaries end up being broke because they're spending their money on image, on entertainment, on networking, on trying to look the part. And there comes a point where, you know, they're spending more than what they're earning, which could lead them and end them up in a bad financial position. The author here also talks about the importance of keeping your finger on the pulse at all times and not to ignore your bank account and to check it regularly to make sure that you know what's going in and what is coming out, and to try and minimize any potential issue that could arise, and to try and, you know, build your savings so you've got money for that rainy day. And the fourth point is not to wait for savings to magically appear. You need to commit to savings, you need to commit and to put money away and to compromise in advance and do without in advance so that you can have more potentially for later. You know, don't live your life spending in advance and spending your money and your pay packet in advance. And the author goes on to talk about the lessons that we can learn from the good people who came before us. And Chelsea talks about the fact that she learnt from her Italian grandmother how to cook, how to enjoy cooking, how to enjoy food, and how to save a lot of money and to be healthy as well along the way. Because it's only through your own cooking that you know what's going in to the food that you're eating. You know, thinking that the food places that you frequent, the takeaway food places, thinking that they have good quality food is incorrect, because at the end of the day, what they're trying to do is that they're in business to make money. And to make money means that you need to save costs, you need to cut corners, and you need to minimize your expenses wherever you can, which means that potentially the food, the products that you have may not necessarily be as good or better than the food and the ingredients that you can be using in your food and your preparation. So according to the author, what we're saying here is that learning from our elders can teach us a lot of things, and as we said, we can learn to save money and make the most of what we have and be healthier as well. So the author Chelsea says that what she learned, and the big call to action for each and every one of us, is to learn how to cook whatever you have. Whatever you have, that's the key point. Don't be specific in terms of what you want to eat every day. Just make the most of what you have. And she makes a really good point here, a really good point, where she says that if you have olive oil, if you have onions, if you have garlic, and if you have some spices, you can basically use this as the base so that you can cook almost anything. Anything that you have in the fridge, anything you have in your pantry, you can mix and use with these key ingredients, and cook up a storm. Cook up something that is wholesome, healthy, tasty and cheap. And the next key message from Grandma is to cook in batches. You know, you don't just cook for today. You know, you cook in batches. You can put it in the fridge, you can freeze it, and you can use it again in 2 or 3 days' time or next week. And that way you can have a cycle of foods that you've got pre-prepared, and you can have it in the freezer, in the fridge, ready for lunch tomorrow or for lunch in 2 or 3 days' time. The next key point that the author makes here is that when you do go grocery shopping, learn from Grandma. Don't go shopping for groceries and for food when you're drunk, hungry or angry, because what you'll be doing is you'll be buying things that you may not need because you're buying on an empty stomach. You're buying sorry, in an emotional state, in a downward emotional state, which means you'll be buying for comfort as opposed to buying for practicality and buying for value. So things to be aware of, and we can save lots of money on food through preparations and budgets. For an example, just the other week on a Saturday down here at Darling Harbour, I thought I'd go and grab myself some breakfast. I didn't have any food that I brought from home, so I went to buy some breakfast, and all I got was some peanut butter on Turkish bread with no butter and a soy hot chocolate, and it cost me $18. $18. I could have spent that on some soy milk, some chocolate powder, some Turkish bread and some peanut butter, and I could have been eating for a whole week or more, should I say. So be careful and focus on food prep, because food prep is the basis of tremendous savings, especially in this day and time and life. The last key point that the author makes is to dream medium instead of dreaming big, so that you don't put pressure on yourself, and you can still make some massive progress in your life. And she says something here which I like. You know, go small, go bare, as an act of rebellion. You don't have to be the king of the jungle. You don't have to have the biggest and best car, the biggest and most expensive wardrobe, dripping in jewelry, and Instagram full of posts from all these wonderful holidays. You know, that in itself, as we mentioned before, is a trap, not only for you, it's a trap for your children and all of those people who look up to you. So to be a responsible adult, responsible family member, responsible citizen, you know, rather than competing with everybody else on a net loss platform, you're better off just backing off and being minimalist in your tastes, minimalist in the things that you do, so that you're not inciting competition from others and you're not leading them down the path of debt and discomfort, not only for them but for also their children as well. So go small as an act of rebellion. Learn to be happier with less. Enjoy the fruits of honest labour. And enjoy and have the touch of realism in your life, and to know that everything is possible, but not anything is possible at any given time. I remember years ago learning this key lesson, that you can achieve everything you want in your lifetime. You can have everything you need. You can fulfill every possible dream, but you can't do it at the same time. We live our lives in lag time, and we need to do things sequentially. You know, you need to plough the field, you need to fertilise, you need to prepare your farm, your farmland before you plant your seeds. You need to water, you need to fertilise, you need to nurture, you need to weed before you can harvest the fruits of those actions, of that labour. And similarly, in our lives, we need to make priorities in terms of what we want, and to know that we can't have everything at the same time, because if you try and do everything at the same time, you'll end up losing and destroying everything at the same time as well. So the last point that comes from this author is that we need to take time. We need to take time to make the big decisions in life. We need to sleep on those decisions, and not to be impulsive with big decisions, especially as you get older, because yes, you can get through mistakes. Yes, mistakes are stepping stones to future successes, but some mistakes are bigger than others, and some mistakes are more devastating than others. You know, broken relationships, divorce, financial disasters, all of those things, if they happen at a certain time of your life, can absolutely destroy one's future. So be careful. Don't overindulge in alcohol. Don't overindulge in drugs. Don't overindulge in debt. Don't overindulge in lifestyle, because it can damage your marriage, your relationships, your career, and all of those things. So once again, the call to action from this author is to be careful, to be very, very careful, to be cautious, you know, to take risks, but to take them in a measured way, trying to understand, you know, and ask yourself the one question: by taking this risk, how am I going to benefit? But also, how am I going to be disadvantaged forever and a day if I make the wrong decision? Anyway, I've got to go into work, so thank you very much for joining me on this episode of Jim's 5am Club. Have a happy Thursday. Wishing you all the best for the whole day. May it be as productive as possible, and may we live, learn and pass it on. Yassas, take care, and bye for now.